So there's two parts to this rejoicing. There's the experience, and you authentically, there's something inside that's so full. You're experiencing something, maybe even in the midst of crap's going on, life circumstances. But you've taken the position that, you know what, no matter what's going on, I'm going to look for God in this. I'm going to pursue Him. I want to see Him. I want to know what He's like. And something happens on the inside of you. That's the first part of true joy and true rejoicing. There is an authentic experience that you have, and I've had this, where I thought my life was over, like the worst things that could ever happen to me have happened. I've lost everything, and I go to God. And I don't go to Him faking like I'm in a good mood. I don't go to Him like, okay, Jesus, I just want the joy of the Lord. No, I go to Him with honest emotions. Until we work past sometimes the honesty of what we're really feeling, it's hard to receive the joy that He has for us. And so just like we see in the Psalms with David, I go to Him and I say, how long, O Lord? Is life going to suck forever? I'm honest with Him. But I go in faith, believing that as I pour out my heart to Him, He's going to put something in my heart that's beyond what I could ever work up. And I think that that's what Mary was doing on this journey. She was being honest with God. Lord, I don't understand this. I can't comprehend this. I'm scared. But not my will, your will. Whatever you say, God. And that's what Elizabeth acknowledges. Blessed are you who have believed what the Lord said. She believed what the Lord said. So there's the experience of joy, but then there's the expression. You can't rejoice without an expression. That's what we saw. That's what we experienced here this morning as we were in worship. There was an expression of joy through worship. But you know, it's not just about our ability to sing a song or make a noise in worship or laugh. Sometimes in worship I just start laughing because I just love Him and I love His presence. It's not just about what happens here on Sunday morning. The life that is a rejoicing life, a joy-filled life, can best be seen where things are hard and dark. Our rejoicing has to go beyond a good praise song. Really, it's our rejoicing that sets us apart from the world. It's the thing that people point at and go, okay, that's weird. What's up with that person? They should not be happy right now. And they think our joy is happiness sometimes. But there's a story I want to tell you. Have you guys heard of Eric Liddell? He was an Olympic runner. They made a movie about him, Chariots of Fire. Anybody know who I'm talking about now? Eric Liddell. He would not run on Sunday in the Olympics because of his faith in God, his belief that Sunday was a day of rest. And he went on to win a gold medal. And so they made this movie about him, Eric Liddell. You know, one of the famous quotes maybe you've heard is that when he said, when I run, I feel the pleasure of God. When I run, I feel the pleasure of God. I think that pleasure of God that he felt when he was running, that's the joy. That's that presence, right? It's like, you know, when we sing, we feel the pleasure of God. You know, maybe there's something you do when you're in nature, when you're taking a walk, you feel the pleasure of God. When if you're a nurse and you're helping people, I feel the pleasure of God, right? And so he knew the joy of the Lord in victory. He knew the joy of the Lord in that place where he was in his lane, man. And he got a gold medal for it. But what they don't tell you in the movie, what a lot of people don't know, is later on in life what happened to him. See, he was a missionary to China during the Second World War. And when the Japanese invaded that part of China, they put all the Westerners in internment camps. You can hardly blame them after what we did to them, but that's what happened. They took all the Westerners, whether they were missionaries or teachers or anybody from America, from the West, and they put them in internment camps. There was a man in that camp who had, he graduated Harvard, he had gone to China to teach. He was a complete humanist, which meant he believed that mankind can make something amazing, can make this utopia because we're so amazing. That's what humanists believe. It's a focus on our ability. And so this man, his name was Landon Gilkey. He ended up writing this book about how he went to this internment camp because he had been teaching in China. They put all the Westerners in this internment camp. And pretty quickly, he got convinced that humanism was not right because he said everybody in that camp got ugly really fast. There was anger, selfishness, manipulation, even the missionaries. Even the people, as a matter of fact, he says those are the worst. The religious people were the worst because they used their religion to justify what they were doing. But there was one person in that internment camp. And Gilkey, he says of this man that he was overflowing with good humor. Eric Liddell. Eric Liddell, who knew what it was to run in the pleasure of God and win a gold medal, was in this internment camp in the latter years of his life as a missionary, just like everybody else. He was put in the same circumstances as everybody else there. And yet, in those circumstances, what flowed out of his life was the joy and the love of the Lord. And Gilkey writes that if it weren't for this one man, none of us would have survived it. This one man who gathered the youth and would arrange for games, and he would feed people, and he did all these things to try to make their lives better. This one man who knew joy, not just when he was running in the Olympics. He knew joy even in the midst of the hardest circumstances, probably harder than most of us will ever have to experience. What flowed out of his life was the joy of the Lord. And what this story tells us is it's not enough to be religious. It's not enough to call yourself believer. What's inside of you will come out, and in those hard circumstances is when our true inner self shows through the most. I want to be like Mary. I want to be like Mary, where instead of worrying about what's going to happen to me and the cost involved in this course that God has me on, I just focus on Him, and worship comes out of me. A life that glorifies God comes out of me. There's a phrase that many of you may have heard. It's from the Westminster Catechism. It says, "The chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever." I think there are some Christians that are probably offended by the idea of enjoying God, of finding joy in God, not just enjoying because, full of the joy of the Lord, I'm a believer. That true sense of pleasure that comes in truly knowing Him and seeing Him and encountering Him. But there's this psalm, Psalm 16. And I think it describes perfectly the life that glorifies God, the life that is enjoying God. And as I read this, and as I read it this week, I kept asking myself, is this true of me? Is this what comes out of me? Is this what I would say about my life? David writes, "Lord, you are my portion and my cup of blessing. You hold my future. The boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Indeed, I have a beautiful inheritance. I will bless the Lord who counsels me, even at night when my thoughts trouble me. I always let the Lord guide me. Because He is at my right hand, I will not be shaken. Therefore, my heart is glad, and my whole being rejoices. My body also rests securely, for you will not abandon me to Sheol. You will not allow your faithful one to see decay. You reveal the path of life to me, and here's the key. In your presence is abundant joy, and at your right hand are eternal pleasures." Does that characterize your life? I need it more. Sometimes that characterizes my life, but I want it more. I want to know what it is to walk with a sense of His pleasure, not just because I'm doing what I'm meant to do, like running. I'm not meant to run. Sitting. Not just because I'm worshiping, sitting behind a piano, Not just because I'm up here getting to talk to you guys about what God's saying to me. Not just because I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I want to know the pleasure of just being in His presence. I want to walk with that. I want to know what it is to live a life 24/7 where I'm so aware of His presence that no matter what's happening around me, I feel pleasure. That's what I want. So I want to just close with these last few questions. Does joy flow from you? Are you able to rejoice right now, no matter what's going on in your life? And is God's reality, who He is and how He works, is that greater than your circumstances in your mind and your eyes? Those are the questions I ended up asking myself. Because it's in being able to walk in the sense of His pleasure, His presence, that joy is found. And that joy will overflow from my life. And so if I can't answer these questions in a super positive way, the answer isn't to pursue joy. The answer isn't to make myself a more joyful person. The answer is to look at Jesus. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look at His face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of His glory and grace. I made a decision this week that Jesus is my core value. I'm really good at articulating vision and values. We have our values here at Life Church, right? Authentic relationship, or authentic, I don't even know them anymore. Authentic faith, loving relationships. Intentional discipleship, we have our values. But I made a decision this week that my core value is Jesus. My core value, that I'm going to live my life not for a set of ideologies or characteristics, but I'm going to live with Jesus at the center of my heart, which, is obviously, hopefully a decision we've made already, but it was just brought home to me again this week that He is the core. When we make Him the core, we honor His presence, we honor His word, and we honor His heart for people. Everything we do needs to flow from the fact that Jesus is at our core, knowing Him. And that's where we find joy, peace. Whatever it is you need this morning, that's where you find it. You find it by looking at Him, being honest with Him about where you're at, because you got to get that junk out of the way, and letting Him fill you.